6 people from that batch had an offer from Google. 25 people from that batch had an offer, or rather 27 I guess, had an offer from Amazon. I grew up in a very, very small, maybe even call it a village called Amarkantak. These people are not able to get these jobs, and these companies are not able to hire the kind of engineers they want to hire. What makes all the difference is having access to practitioners or mentors who are just few years ahead of you. The world is so full of opportunities. All that you need to do is
All right, guys, welcome to my YouTube channel once again. And today with me, I have Abhimanyu Saxena, one of the first 4 to grow fab.com. And now he is one of the founders at SCALER Academy, one of the fastest growing companies in India in the edtech space. So welcome to the channel, Abhimanyu. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well, and thank you so much for hosting me.
It's a pleasure. And honestly, I've been so excited to do this interview that when I entered the office, I was so nervous. I almost spilled my water. But he made sure to make me really comfortable. So, I really enjoyed how well you treat people. I have heard so many good things about you, but meeting you in person, I can really feel the aura of somebody so much wiser. And I am excited to share his journey with you guys because I know that you will learn a lot from him. So, talk to me a little bit about your early life. What was that like? Your education and, your early days of job and entrepreneurship.
I think to begin with, I think you are too kind. But yeah, let me talk about where I came from, what I have done so far. So I grew up in a very, very small, maybe even call it a village called Amarkantak. It's somewhere between MP and Chhattisgarh. It's a very remote place. I have this, childhood memories where it was a town with no telephone line, no petrol bunk in the entire town. I remember physically receiving the telegram, something called as, not the app app that we use today, but the original version of telegram. Yeah. So had a very interesting childhood, and that also in a way, if I look back, it also helps me understand that how critical and important education could be in someone's life. So I have this very interesting incident from life which kind of shook me quite a bit. So I think back in 2014 or 15, I was traveling once back to my hometown. And when I got down at the railway station, it was late at night, and I took an auto. And the person driving the auto was one of my school friend from primary school. He recognized me as well somehow. I did as well. And if I recall, he was more hardworking than me. He was smarter than me when we were in school. The only difference that caused all the difference between what I could do, and of course he's still doing great, living his livelihood, but he could have done much more if he had access to the education that I had. That's the amount of difference that quality of education makes in someone's life. So that's where I come from. After school, I went to a college in Hyderabad. Then was fortunate enough to work at places which kind of compressed a lot of business experience in just few years. So Fab was back in early 2010s, 11, 12, 13. It raised close to $400 million in funding, a valuation of more than $1 billion.
19 months,
in 18-20 months, we had raised close to $400 million in funding, a valuation of more than $1 billion. And when you are part of such a rocket ship, and that is why I recommend almost everyone that, if you want to build a startup in life, go work for startups. Because, you are on the driver's seat. So that was a fascinating journey. And then around 2014 is when both me and Anshuman, who is my other co-founder, we both decided to call it quits. Fortunately, I think those 4 or 5 years of, spending time at such high growth startups, Facebook, Fab, it helped us grow a lot as a person. It helped us build the right network. It helped us, learn so many things that we could apply when we were building our own company. So yeah, then Anshuman also at that time, he was in London. He was sent there to set up the Facebook London office. I was in Pune at that time. So we were figuring out where to set up the company. We started it in Pune, and then life is going on.
And that is incredible, because I think one of the biggest complaints that, in India, they say that, engineers, once they are going outside, they're never coming back to India again.
Oh, that's not true at all.
But you are not only coming back to India, but you are actually building a better education system for India that not only empowers them with the skills, but also getting the right kind of jobs.
Right.
And since you mentioned about your friend, the incident with your friend, was that one of the incidents that really made you think that you need to change the scenario of education in India? And is that how SCALER developed? Like, I'd like to know the inception of SCALER.
Right. To be candid, while of course, it sounds very nice story that, that moment changed me. But practically in life, we go through multiple, small incident experiences which shapes us. Mm-hmm. So it definitely, kind of did leave some thought. I wouldn't say that just on that night I said that, I want to build an education company. But, not having access to quality education, it is so common amongst all of us, right? It's not that it's some revolution. Everyone knows that. So how we came about SCALER, I'll tell you, because while we started SCALER just 3 years back, but we have been at solving this problem of quality tech education for 7-8 years now, right? So the first company, or the first product rather, it's the same company even today, but the first product that we built is InterviewBit. The problem we were trying to solve for was that if I ask you that who wants to, like in India we have 16 lakhs or 17 lakhs people doing their engineering every single year. If I ask them how many of you want to do a job at Google or Facebook or Amazon, everyone does, right? On the other hand, if I ask these companies that, do you want to hire more engineers? They're like, yeah, absolutely, yes, we want to hire more engineers. We are not able to find them, right? But both of them are not able to do that. These people are not able to get these jobs, and these companies are not able to hire the kind of engineers they want to hire. So we thought that let's try to solve this problem. It will have so much impact both in the life of these people and for the companies. Because if our startups have access to better engineers and in larger volume, they can do so much more. The startups can grow so much faster. So InterviewBit was also an attempt to solve that. What we felt was that if we just create a platform which is free, InterviewBit have always been free. It was a free learning platform. It's free even today. We tried building a step-by-step, learning path. The idea was simple, and that is where the name InterviewBit was also rooted in. That spend 6 months on it, step-by-step learn these topics, solve these problems, and if you do that, you can clear the interviews of the best tech product companies. Product was very well received. For the initial 4.5 years of the company, we had not raised any funds. So with zero marketing budget, absolute zero spent on marketing. We didn't even had a marketing team back then. InterviewBit had close to 30 to 40 lakh people signed up on it.
Okay, wow.
But now while 30-40 lakhs people signed up on it is something to be very proud of, to be honest. But if I ask that, what was the learning delta being created for these people? To be candid, we had a very interesting learning. That content alone is not sufficient at all. Of course, all the knowledge is available on internet. What is important is the adherence. And there's this concept of active learning versus passive learning, right? That when I read a book, when I just watch a video, I am just taking in information. I do not have an opportunity to discuss and debate that. That doesn't build my critical thinking. I do not have an opportunity to immediately apply it somewhere and then again have a discussion with someone that I did it this way. How else can we do it? Until and unless that happens, people cannot learn technology, or they will not be the great technologists. Mm-hmm. So InterviewBit was in a way, like, of course, every month while running a startup, you have so many learnings every single month, right? So InterviewBit left us with a lot of learnings about how people learn. And then we tried to apply all of that to SCALER. Now, one very interesting, I think turning point was in 2018. So 15 to 18, we were running InterviewBit, solid, profitable company, great traction, absolutely free learning platform for everyone. And like, to be quite candid, one great thing about being in education, which leads to employment, both InterviewBit and SCALER, is that you get a lot of love from people. Right? People really appreciate it when you can help them really make a career, right? In 2018, we were helping set up one of, a large transport company, one of the largest global transport companies, set up their office in India. And they wanted to, so we had helped them hire some senior engineers for the team. And then they wanted to hire some 30, 40 freshers. Of course, this company pays 35, 40 lakhs to a fresher. Again, the kind of company that everyone wants to go and work with. And they asked us that, can you help us do that? We said, of course, we would love to. And we suggested them back then, a newer way of hiring, that instead of just maybe by default, what companies would do is that maybe visit such companies, which are hiring for the top talent. They would also visit top 5 colleges of the country, try to hire from there and be done with it. What we suggested was that let's do one thing. Given almost all the final year students in the country in engineering are on interview bit already, let's do an online test of all of them. You set it hard, make sure that only really strong programmers can clear it, and you can interview the people who clear that. So we did that. Eventually they hired 40 people. Out of that, there were 35 who were kind of nothing surprising. People from an IIT Delhi, IIT Hyderabad, IIT Bombay. Pretty obvious, right? They would have hired them anyway by going to their colleges. But there were 5 kids who came from kind of colleges which no one would have even heard name of out of that city. Tier 3 towns. And well, this is something special. Let's try to figure what's special about these guys. So I actually personally spoke to all 5 of them. I even till date I remember their names. I'm connected to many of them even today. To understand that, what was different about you.
What was common between them?
Yeah. Now today this might sound pretty obvious, but back then it was a massive, eye-opening moment for me. So the first one would tell me that, one of my sibling sister, she works at Google and I connect with her almost every week. And she's the one who told me about InterviewBit and asked me to study here. And if I'm stuck in something, then she helps me out. The other one would say that, while I couldn't clear, the IIT and all when I was in 12th, but some of my friends did. And I'm connected to them. And now they are at great companies and they keep giving me inputs on, what to study, what not to study. Almost all of them had this common thing. So either some form of mentorship available to them, or some kind of a small peer group formed, 3, 4, 5 friends who are collectively studying. And if I compare it with even, let's say, the best colleges of the world, the Stanford, the MIT, of course, most of them end up doing better there, right? And often people say that it is because they select the best. I do not believe so. Like, do they have access to better books? Absolutely not. We all have access to the same books that someone at MIT have. Do they have better professors? Yes, probably marginally better, but they are not 100 times better, right? End of the day, as a matter of fact, I think professors are good at almost every college. They do want to teach. If we look at what makes all the difference, is having access to practitioners or, mentors who are just few years ahead of you, who are there in the industry, who can give you very to the point inputs on what to focus on, right? One thing that is massively broken with particularly the tech education is that we do not have practitioners teaching. If I compare it with the medical sciences, each medical college will have a hospital associated with that. Every professor in a medical college is also doubling up as a doctor in the hospital. If someone is teaching surgery in the afternoon, probably in the morning, this person is doing surgery, right? Now that is very, very important. If I ask someone that if you have to undergo a surgery and you are told that the person who will be doing your surgery is taught by people who have never done surgery in his life, probably you would run for your life, right? Now, however, this is so prevalent in tech education or even, management to quite an extent, that people who are teaching computer science in the colleges, they have never worked as software engineer in the industry. And then it's futile to expect that people taught by them can become software engineers. And that is why probably, the TCS, the Infosys had to build a campus in Mysore to just hire people, teach them for 6 months, and then, let them work, right? It was their necessity, because colleges are not producing people who can work. Right? So I think that makes a huge difference. In academia, I think it's very much necessary that we get practitioners who are at the best of it. Let's say if I want to teach someone how to build scalable systems, it should be someone who has built Hotstar. Like just few days back, we had Akash, who is Hotstar CTO right here, doing a podcast and talking about that. How did they scale Hotstar to stream to 1.4 million, I guess, or more concurrent people watching the match?
Yes.
Right. Now these are the people who should be teaching, right? But yeah, I hope that we would enable that for the entire generation. But yeah, I think that is one very big important thing needed.
Yes, agreed to that. And talking about people, bringing this kind of quality education to people. When it's an idea, sounds amazing, but I'm sure the execution has been challenging.
Absolutely.
So what was the first batch, if there was like a batch system of Scaler, right? Yeah. So what was the first batch of Scaler like, and what did you learn from the students or learners that helped you perfect the product?
Right. No, so I keep saying this very often, that perfection is not a state but a journey. Every single month we learn so much from the learners, and we keep iterating, improving on the things. And yes, of course, we have batches. We have tried to design the entire learning product, taking in all the good parts of the college system, right? So that a group of people learning together, having that camaraderie, the classroom environment, all of that is very important. We can't let go of that. So we have batches. Our first batch was started in April 2019. It was a much smaller batch. It was just, I think, about 200 people. But to be honest, one of the batch that I feel very inspired of myself, all these kids. So the first batch, I remember just when we had completed teaching them, and then we were trying to get them interviews with the companies, etc. From that batch, I remember by just February or March 2020. So we had started it in April 2019. And by March 2020, 6 people from that batch had an offer from Google. 25 people from that batch had an offer, or rather 27, I guess, had an offer from Amazon. Almost everyone in the batch today, and now not just getting the first offer. Now these folks have been working in really top tech companies for almost 2-3 years now, right? All of them are growing so fast in their career. Many of them actually joined us back. So we have one person who had joined Google, left Google, joined us because he also felt very passionate about education. There were 2 others who left Amazon and joined us. So they studied with us, joined the best companies, and then left those companies and joined us. So that batch was indeed special. The first batch was indeed special.
Yeah, I think the first, batch of students is special to any person who runs a course. And now that I'm talking to you about courses, there's a notion in the recent market that courses are passive income. And the more I talk to you, I realize that the top of the top, which Scaler is right now, it gets there through a lot of feedback, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure how many of you guys know, but Scaler has a 93.5% success rate, which is unmatched. It's amazing stat. So where does that, come from? Like, how does that happen? That is taking huge responsibility on almost on a personal level with the students. Where does that come from? How does that huge success rate happen? And by the way, it's a KPMG audited report. So, I mean, you take it seriously.
Yeah. No, so see, even like 8 years back when we started out, even if I ask today, why do we exist? What are we doing? We started out to help people become employable at top tech companies. That has to be the metric. If that is not happening, then we are failing. Nothing else. No matter what the valuation is, no matter what the revenue is. If that is not happening, then we are not doing what we started for. Now, doing that is, of course, not trivial. And if I ask that, is there some, pill that one can just pop and this one? Not at all. Career outcome, high quality career outcome can only come if there is very big learning outcome that have been created first. If people are not capable, companies are smart enough, right? You cannot fool them. Getting a high quality job is impossible without becoming a very capable engineer first. Now, if I go to how do someone become high capability engineer, how do we create that massive amount of learning delta? That also has to be rooted in a lot of consistency and a lot of hard work. If I talk about some numbers here, on an average, a Scaler learner who is enrolled in the course, they spend about 186 minutes every single day on the platform, either learning something new or writing code. On an average, each learner write about 1000 lines of code every week. Now, this is more than 3 hours every single day. All of these people are working professionals. And so much code written every single week, right? Without having done this, it's impossible for people to learn. Unless you practice, unless you put in a lot of effort consistently, you cannot learn. Now, how do you get people to do that? Right? There are more than 20,000 people going through the active course right now. These are working professionals. After a full day job, spending 3 hours on learning something, it's not easy, right? Now, this high amount of adherence or, this kind of regularity, that is something very hard to crack. And it took us 7-8 years to crack that, to be candid. We have been as I said, that, being consistent, sticking to one problem for very long, that's a superpower in itself. We have been at just this one specific problem for 8 years. So in the products we have been, the learning product that we have, now we have been able to build such smart hooks that people just get addicted to it. One very big part is community. That let's say if I, it's like there are, I guess, memes on it as well, that we just buy so many online courses, watch the first 2 classes, and we never end up finishing that. Mm-hmm. Even data-wise, for most of the recorded courses, the completion rate is in a small single digit, 1, 2, 3%. If 100 people buy a Udacity course, only 2% of them finish it. And if you are not even finishing it, no outcome is possible.
Exactly.
At Scaler, 96% of the people who enroll in the course, they finish the entire program. And that is rooted in that engaged product. So this is one very common thing that our learners often say, that being in Scaler is almost like being in a university, just that it is not physical. They are not in a physical campus. It's more of a virtual campus, but it is as intensive experience as being in a university, right? And that is something which I think universities also have it well. If 100 people join, let's say, engineering, 98 of them finish it. Yeah. Even if not in 4 years, maybe 5 years, but they finish it, right? I think that is something that we have been able to crack even in the online mode. And peer-to-peer learning, the community dynamics, they also play a very big role. Just like college, we learn more from our friends than probably what you learn in the classroom, right? Classroom is just to give you direction. Rest of it you do on your own, and you can never do these things alone, but you do it as a group.
Yes, agreed.
So we have implemented that amazingly well. So people make really deep friendships with others in their batch. They solve problems together. They share feedbacks with each other. They even teach each other. In one class or in one problem that they have to solve, I might not be able to do it, but someone in my batch would help me. And today, I think with high-speed internet, you might be in Kolkata, someone might be in Chennai. You two join the virtual class at the same time together every single day. And right after class, you can get on a call with your batchmate and just have discussion around the class. That leads to high completion rate. So high adherence leads to high learning leads to high quality jobs. And there's no shortcut to it. It's impossible.
Yeah, now that you break it down, I can really see why Scaler has been able to distinguish itself amongst so many other edtech companies. And talking about distinguishing itself, one of the things that I loved about Scaler when I started digging deep is the work culture. Edtech is notorious for having toxic work culture, and almost every second day there is like something going on LinkedIn that something is going really wrong in the e-learning space. But when I talked with real people from Scaler, they could not stop raving about how much they love their jobs, and even people in sales teams. So how does that happen? Is it hard, or does it come naturally to you, like building such a strong work culture around Scaler?
Yeah. No, I think culture is one of the most important things. How the company would become is fundamentally rooted in the culture. And if I ask that, what is culture? We talk so much about culture, but if I ask, what do you mean by culture? How I see it as, culture is something, how people behave when no one is watching them, how people behave when there are no rules. Right? That is what the culture is. And, culture is not something that, you cannot write a book for it, that this is our culture book. Of course, that documentation helps because then everyone aligns to that. But culture has to be lived, right? And in a lot of ways, to build a strong culture, people have to really live it. You have to practice what you want to preach. For example, if I want to say that the company's culture must be highly collaborative, and if I as a founder, if someone is not able to do something and I just shout at them, then my company culture cannot be collaborative, right? Because people just, like building a company is very similar to raising a kid. As I often say that do not tell kids what to do. Do it and they will follow you. They just imitate you. So I think we had also been very fortunate that since the very beginning, we had really, really good people joining us. Good, not just being very highly capable. They were, of course, very highly capable, but they were also good people. And when there is a group of good people, smart and good people together, like attracts like. And then it becomes that unsaid rule, underlying unsaid rule that this is how we behave here. This is what we do. No one is being nice because they are trying to look nice on a camera or someone is watching them. They are nice because that is how we be. So I think that is what sets the culture.
Yeah. And why do you think that there are so many edtech companies that are failing at this, root level foundation thing?
Right. No, I think because people do not take it so seriously. I think often the metric becomes that, and see, no one is a bad person, right? But it's the prioritization of which metric is most important for you. Mm-hmm. Often, unfortunately, sometimes it becomes the chase of just, growth of revenue as fast as you can go. And if that is the priority, then yes, it might break, right? If someone is forced to that, if the right next thing to think about is that I have to do the next fundraise. For next fundraise, I have to have this much revenue. For this revenue, I just have to push people. If it becomes that singular metric, then things do break. And that is why it is important that you are designing your goals very carefully. Of course, revenue is important, profit is important, but you cannot keep that at the highest priority because then things start breaking. There's a very nice book, people who are interested in building businesses called The Hard Thing About the Hard Things. I think it's written by Ben Horowitz, who is one of the founders of A12Z, which is Andreessen Horowitz, one of the most legendary VC firm of Silicon Valley. And there he talks about that to build an enduring company, to build an institute, you have to prioritize people over product, over profits. And if you do it in this order, the profits and revenue, it will automatically come. What mistake people do is they reverse the order. That I'll
prioritize product and people.
So come like the reverse order. That I would first prioritize profit,
then product,
and then I'll come to I'll try to build a good product, and then fine, if this two is sorted, then I'll try to focus on people, and then things break. That is when the culture goes bad. So you have to have it in this order. And if you follow it in this order, which is people over product if you have built very strong culture to care for your customer or your learners, we call them learners. We don't call, people who pay us as our customers because they are not just customers. If you build a culture that every single person in the company care about their success. So first you have to focus on people. And if that happens, then your product will be automatically good. And if your product is really good, then your profits will automatically come.
Got it. Yeah, agreed to that. Talking about, growing Scaler a little further, who do you think are some of your mentors who have maybe taught you some things that have saved you a lot of years? I would love to know the top tips.
Yeah. No, I think, on the mentors, people often say that get a mentor, find a mentor.
You said it yourself.
Yeah. And that is a very powerful thing, it exponentiates your, learning. You can do so much more, if someone is just there to build a path. But at the same time, you also have to earn your mentors. right? Sometimes it's just pure luck as well. I think I have been very fortunate to, have access to people who can give the right guidance. Often one very big important thing is just ask. Often people just hesitate to ask for help. What always surprised me, that when I reached out to people who I thought are, too big, or why would they even respond to me, and they will just get back to you.
That's exactly how I felt when you replied to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, and that's why I say just ask. Knock the doors. The worst that could happen is that the door will not open. But if you knock 1,000 doors, probably one will open, right? And yes, indeed, I think I can definitely say that it's very hard to take just one name, because there's so many people. Fortunately, I think in Bangalore, in general, in Indian tech ecosystem, most of the founders, like Flipkart founders, Zomato, Paytm, take the names. Like all of them are so willing to help new entrepreneurs. 7 years back, when we were no one, just two young software engineers trying to build something, I remember having sent messages to, India's largest startup founders, and they got back, they responded. Said, "Tika, tell me, how can I help?"
Wow. I think a lot of people just overthink that situation.
Yeah.
But since lately I have talked with much more founders than maybe last year. I'm an introvert, so it was even harder for me to connect. But this year I've just kind of pushed myself, and the opportunities and the learning is immense. And yes, as you mentioned, earning your mentors is again true. After a certain level, you can't pay such mentors to get a consultation with them.
You can't.
So I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've also had is that working with them is the best way to learn from them.
Yeah.
And you worked at Fab.
Right. No, so of course, even during my Fab, I think I had such an accelerated learning, probably decades of experience compressed into a few years. Second, of course, when you are at such young startups, you get access to, the CEOs and people who have been there, done that, much easier. So that definitely helps a lot.
Yeah. You also mentioned to me when we were having our conversations that you're an early riser, and there's a age-old debate whether waking up early is crucial to success or not. What's your take on it?
So to be candid, I have, been an early riser. I have been a night owl. Just like almost all the techies, there have been times when, I'll be sitting in front of the computer till 4 a.m. I wouldn't say that there's any global rule that you have to be successful, you have to be an early riser. But at the same time, from my personal experience, what I can say is that when you get up early, just your day is so much bigger. Because by the time otherwise you are starting up, by that time you have already done so much. So at least as of now, I feel that, it is helping me. Sometimes when you have that free time in the morning, which is distraction free. So fundamentally what I see value is that if you have certain time blocks in your day, few hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, where you can be absolutely distraction free, that definitely is very powerful, right? Now either that can happen very early in the morning, maybe 5 to 9 in the morning, or it can happen very late in the night, 12 to 5 in the morning. Now, while that late in the night, and that is why so many programmers typically are, night owls. Because late night, there's no distraction, right? Early morning, there's no distraction. That being said, of course, now I'm getting older, so I try to be more conscious of the health. I think early morning, I at least myself, I can see it does have impact. You are so much more energetic when you are rising early and sleeping early. So yeah, to each their own. No golden rule that you have to be an early riser. But yeah, it's worth trying it out if it works for you.
Yeah, agree. There's also something, I'm not sure if you know about it, but there's something called chronotype. And that is basically, there's a website you can go to and write down your habits, and it'll give you what's your chronotype, and based on that, what is the best period for you to sleep in. And there's a very rare chronotype who can actually function with just 3 to 5 hours of sleep every day.
Got it.
They can actually function like that.
Got it.
So that was something interesting.
Yeah, I think that's more of genetics.
Yeah.
But in general, one thing that I always recommend, I sleep like a log. And it's never wise to cut on your sleep. Your brain it's better to, have higher efficiency than having longer window of low efficiency. So in general, never cut on sleep. Anyone who is telling that I only sleep for 2 hours and I am God, they are fooling you. That's not true.
You're taking a dig on like all the hustle culture right now.
Oh, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
To put it, very bluntly, you have to be well rested to be efficient. The value is created by high quality work, not by higher amount of work.
No.
And for high quality work, you have to be, like if there's a Porsche car, if your brain is Porsche, you have to take care of it for it to function well. And if you don't take care of it, it will be trash. And don't do that.
Agreed. I think this is like tweet worthy. Whatever you just said regarding high quality work. And since I've been speaking with you, like even before this, I see a lot of strategic thinking in the way you approach things.
Yeah.
So do you have a strategy for long-term visions and planning? Or how does that method work for you?
Right.
And how are you implementing that at SCALER?
Right. No, so I think having a very clear strategy, but at the same time having very precise execution and that tactical moves, both are important. Because if you have no strategy, then you might have a lot of motion but no movement. For example, if you do not have a compass, no matter how much you are running, you might not end up anywhere. You might be just going in circles. Right? So having that compass, I consider strategy as that compass, that where are you going? What's your North Star? That's really important. But at the same time, even if I know that's my North Star, but I'm lazy, I'm not even walking, even then I'm not going to go far. So that tactical execution is also equally important. That you are marching fast and you are marching in the right direction. And with that, like for example, we have had the same strategy for 8 years. We said we want to fix tech education for employment. Till date, we are in the same direction. Zero distraction. In last 8 years, so many buzzwords came in, went out. We stuck to the same. How we do it? So we have always been very clear about what to do and why we are doing that. How we will do that, that keeps changing. That is tactics. That you keep learning every single month. Unfortunately, the mistake a lot of people do is they get married to the solutions they have built. That I have built this, so I'll try to make it work. If it is not working, then I'll build something else. What you need to do is rather be married to the problem. That I want to solve this problem out there. How to solve it, I will learn every month. And it's okay to keep changing that. And that I think works pretty well.
Oh, that's really insightful. Actually, as you're speaking, I'm just understanding there's so many ways to implement everything that you talk about. And I'm sure that anybody watching this, you are also, brainstorming in your head with all his advice. But now let's move away a little bit from business and scaling and company and talk a little bit more about the person. And I found out that Abhimanyu is an avid reader, and also he's also a coffee addict like I am, and that has been really exciting to get to know that. So let's talk a little bit about your favorite books. What are some books you think everybody should read in their lives?
So the list is pretty long actually. Unfortunately, lately I have not been finding much time to read books, although I have a huge collection at home, probably close to 1,000 books.
Oh my God.
Library at my home. Some of the ways. So generally I read two kind of books. Either, of course, some fiction. And but last 2-3 years I didn't get much time to read fiction anymore, unfortunately. These are the kind of sacrifices of running a business that you have to make. And then, like how I see books is, if I want to, let's say, we were talking about mentorship, right?
Yes.
That being able to speak to people who have done things, very, very inspiring things. Books is a good way to get that mentorship. It might be impossible for me to get Bill Gates as my mentor, or, spend time with him. But if I read a book written by him, fundamentally, that's what I can learn his entire life journey from that, right? Some of the books that I found to be very, very insightful, and I will credit these books to, like whatever we have been able to build so far as well, because you cannot learn everything by doing. right? And
Of
if you
course.
are able to learn even beforehand, then you can move so much faster. So one, I think the hard thing about the hard things, that's a really good book. Although this is more relevant for people who are on the 10 to 100 journey of the company. And now coming to that, the 0 to 1 phase of the company, where you have come up with new idea, you are just building it out. So another very good book is 0 to 1.
0 to 1 Tiruthiel.
Right?
Yeah.
I read that long back, almost when it was published. And that was also very insightful. There were, many non-intuitive things that it helps you understand that this is how things work. This is how you make high impact products, right? On marketing and branding, there are some really, really nice books. There's this called 22 Immutable Laws of Branding.
Yeah.
And the same for
Of course, that's a
marketing.
Bible.
Yeah. So these, I like those books really well. If someone is into fiction reading, then we're talking about Dostoevsky, right? So
Yes.
one of the oldest, I think the new style of writing in Russian literature. So I like that. I remember when I was a young kid, I read The Idiot by Dostoevsky, and I think that left an impression. As a kid, I read Moby Dick, which I think was very interesting book to read. So I think that's the list.
Yeah, those are some really, really good recommendations. I really wanted to talk about books with you because, especially fiction, I wanted to hear from you because a lot of people think that to grow a business, fiction does not really help a lot. But at least like in my case, I like reading fiction because sometimes a lot of my work is like storytelling, marketing, copywriting. So I can write from a different angle instead of the age-old one. So definitely.
So I'll add to that. I think storytelling is one of the most important skill to build a big company. I do not know any founder who built a massive business and is not a great storyteller.
Oh, wow.
Steve Jobs. He was probably the best storyteller of the world. He might have been a great product person. He might have been a great marketer, but at first he was a great storyteller, right? Elon Musk. Now we might have a new way of storytelling, but Elon Musk probably is the best storyteller out there, right?
Of course.
Yeah, the new tool might be the new tool of storytelling might be memes.
Yeah.
Probably 100 years back it was poems. I see memes are the poems of the modern world, right? So storytelling is super important, and yes, reading fiction helps you become a much better storyteller. And if you want to build a large business, if you want to build a strong organization, being a storyteller is most important.
Yeah. Do you think your childhood and your inclination towards fiction then has helped you, grow your business? Because
that's a very interesting question. I never kind of directly tried to correlate that.
Because from the moment I've stepped my foot inside, you're telling me about your childhood and the way you've grown your business. And I can see that storytelling aspect. And I'm sure like when you speak with your team at some point that has been helpful.
Yeah. No, so I when I look back as a kid, maybe I was a weird kid, but I was someone who could read anything and everything for hours. So in our house, we had a small, that small room where all the, things which are not really used are thrown away. Right, so old magazines, bundles of old newspapers, all of that. And if I have nothing else to do, I could just sit there and I could read a 5-year-old newspaper end to end, including the advertisements, everything. Or maybe a 10-year-old magazine and end to end, I'll just read it. It doesn't matter what it is. And I think I used to enjoy that. Just reading anything is fun. It's not that I need to have a nice story to read. And I think that inculcated that habit of just reading a lot. And then when I grew up, when I went to college, we used to play this game called Wikipedia surfing. So the game is fundamentally that you pick 2 Wikipedia articles. You start with one and you have to try to reach to the second article only by clicking links in. Let's say I landed up on the first Wikipedia article. Let's say I opened the Wikipedia article of Delhi. And then the second one is, let's say, coffee.
Oh, wow.
Now, I have to keep clicking links on the articles, read through them, and try to end up at the coffee article. And the lesser the number of clicks, the higher the score. So we used to play this game. And now, there have often, even today, it often happens that while I might not get time to read books, but there would have been days where I have spent 6 hours just reading random Wikipedia articles, which have nothing to do with what I'm doing, nothing for immediate gain. But doing that builds
the ability to connect the dots, I believe.
The ability to connect the dots. You just know so many random things about, random facts about random things that you can connect the dots. And probably all of that makes you a better storyteller.
And a problem solver as well.
And a problem solver as well. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned lately is that nothing exists in isolation.
Yeah.
Like people are like, you specialize in one thing, but then nothing exists in isolation. It's always a harmony of everything. So the more you know, the better.
Right. So there is this concept of T-shaped knowledge graph. What they mean by T-shaped knowledge graph is that you have deep expertise in one, but you have a wide knowledge of a lot of things. And that is a very big superpower. So, yeah, I think, of course, I am a programmer first. I run a company which helps people become high-quality programmers. But at the same time, yes, I think I just, out of the hobby, I just keep reading about random things, be it mythology, history, philosophy, nuclear chemistry, nuclear physics, anything and everything.
Wow. This is really exciting. And I think in the last question, I've gotten to know a very different side of you. And to wrap it up, the last question, describe yourself in one line only.
That's pretty hard. I would probably let others do it because my own perception of myself, I probably never thought about that.
And it can be 2-3 lines as well.
Okay. Describe myself in 2-3 lines. Okay.
Or I can change.
I'll probably just use this, quote from Einstein.
Okay, wow.
I think I very strongly relate. I'm a kid on the seashore trying to pick up the, shells. So many shells on the seashore yet to be picked.
Oh, wow. That's a very, very nice way to put it. And thank you so much for spending this time with me, answering all my questions. I know that my viewers have enjoyed this a lot, especially I think there was so much to take away regarding mentorship and career growth and skills. The link to Scaler's official handles will be in the description. The link to Abhimanyu's LinkedIn and other social handles would be in the description as well, in case you want to check him out. Actually, LinkedIn is where I approached him. I did not even expect a reply. When I got a reply, I did not even expect that he will agree for an interview. But I guess after I got the interview, I just went to my team members and I was like, I got this. I'm going to go and do this. And they were all like so happy about it. And I'm so thankful to you for agreeing to do this and sharing all this knowledge with my viewers. And yeah, what is the last piece of advice you want to give them before we end this video? What is some advice you want to give to the youth who's very ambitious, but then they don't have the right direction?
Right. No, I think the world is so full of opportunities. All that you need to do is be very, very skilled. And when learning, I think it is very important to understand the why and the goal. That whatever you are doing, why are you doing that? And what is the goal that you are trying to achieve? And try to align all your efforts to that. I think unfortunately a lot of youth just gives into the hype or the buzz. But try to ask yourself, why are you doing this? And what is your goal? And wherever you are spending your effort, time, resources, is that really aligned to your goal? Does it have a good answer to why? If not, do not confuse yourself with the distractions. I think that might create a very big difference.
Yeah, agreed to that. And yes, with that, we will end today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I look forward to the comments. And yeah, bye-bye.